Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Newshour, India's voice to the world. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Coming up in the next hour. US Justice Department begins releasing government Epstein files. Democrats voice frustration over the release of new trove of files. US Operation Hawkeye strikes against ISIS in Syria. Hits over 70 targets in coordination with Jordanian forces. Monitoring group says at least 5 IS members killed. And Pakistan's former Prime Minister Imran Khan, wife Bushra Bibi, sentenced to 17-year prison sentence in corruption case. Well, in Bangladesh, capital Dhaka and several other parts of the country witnessed widespread protests on Friday following the death of Sharif Osman Hadi, who succumbed to his injuries while undergoing treatment in Singapore on Thursday night. Security was tightened ahead of the repatriation of Hadi's body, which arrived in Dhaka on Friday evening. Additional personnel deployed in the country as the funeral of Hadi to be held on Saturday. Amid high alert, security personnel keeping the vigil outside the Bangladesh High Commission here in New Delhi. Meanwhile, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres condemned the killing of Bangladeshi youth leader Sharif Osman bin Hadi and called on the authorities to ensure accountability. The UN chief urged the authorities to conduct a prompt and impartial, a thorough and transparent investigation in line with international human rights standards. Addressing media in New York, UN spokesperson Stephen Dujarric also appealed for calm, urging all sides to refrain from violence, reduce tensions and exercise maximum restraint in order to preserve a peaceful electoral environment. The killing also drew similar concern from UN High Commissioner for Human Rights Volker Turk. In a statement, the UN Human Rights Chief echoed calls for accountability for those responsible. All right, and DD India's Naval Sangh Parmar is joining us on phone line from Bangladesh. Hi, Naval Sangh. What is the situation there as far as the protests are concerned? What all are the areas, Naval Sangh, where the protests are happening, and what is the government doing about it?
Today was the Namaz-e-Janaza of Osman Hadi, and it was around 2 p.m. here in Bangladesh, and huge crowd assembled near the Manik Mia Avenue of Parliament, Bangladesh Parliament. And due to precautionary actions, there are by and large there was a peace on the roads. There was a crowd, there were a protest, but no unwanted incident have been reported in Dhaka. But there are some incidents reported from the outside Dhaka. One is in Lakshmipur district of Bangladesh, where the house of BNP leader was burned, and in that one child lost his life, and two other person also got a burn injury. And there are some other incidents here in Bangladesh in countryside. Security arrangements are there, and heavy deployment of BGP and police and RAF and army are there. But still, the situation is tense, and people are worried. There are fanatical elements as well as fundamentalists are on street somewhere. They are doing arson attack, or they are people are scared about the gunshot, murder, looting, mugging. This kind of activities are now rampant in Bangladesh as the law and order situation. There is a poor condition of the law and order situation. That is the reason.
Indeed.
The
Naval
government
Sangh, yeah, please continue.
there are allegations against the government also, interim government, Yunus administration. There is a social media campaign running against the Asif Nazrul, who is a law advisor of interim government, and he made some loose statement. And based on that, the Prabasi Bangladeshi, means immigrants, are quite angry against him, and there are allegations against the other advisor also. They are not taking effective steps to protect life and property in Bangladesh. So those who supported the interim government, many of them have a disillusion with the interim government, and they are quite against the Yunus administration.
Indeed. Naval Singh, what more can you tell us about the security arrangements, especially in the capital?
Well, in capital, there is a huge deployment of police and army and BGP, border guard Bangladesh, particularly in diplomatic areas and diplomatic zone. Apart from the capital, in the divisional cities like Chittagong, Memansingh, Silat, and Rajshahi, Khulna, there are also a security deployment, and some incident happened as 2 days back. There was an attack on residence of Indian Assistant High Commission. Then after government become conscious and they deployed enough number of police personnel and other agencies. So it is by and large now there is enough provision to protect any unwanted incidents in diplomatic zone and the capital city. But still, there is a social media is playing a big game when someone posts something and the crowd, there is no arrangement who can control the crowd, and army is not taking much interest. Somewhere they are taking a they are not taking a preventive action. Army, when something happen, army reach there, they disperse the crowd, everything is there, but they are not taking preventive action. And that is also analytics and media person are saying that army is not taking preventive action in current situation.
Indeed. And what information do you have as far as the Sharif Osman Hadi's funeral is concerned?
It was scheduled at 2 p.m. Local time, and now I think everything preparation regarding that have been made, and by in a few minutes or in few times it will be completed.
All right, thank you so much for this information, Naval Singh. This is developing, and we'll keep taking updates from you on this. But as of now, we leave it there. Thank you so much again. And in a major development in Pakistan, a special court in Rawalpindi has convicted former Prime Minister Imran Khan and his wife Bushra Bibi in Tosha Khana 2 corruption case. As per country's media reports, the court sentenced each of them to 17 years of rigorous imprisonment and imposed a fine of approximately 10 million Pakistani rupees on each. The proceedings were conducted by the special court in a temporary courtroom set up within the Adiala jail premises. In fact, the case relates to allegations that during Imran Khan's tenure as Prime Minister, he retained expensive official gifts illegally and undervalued them in violation of government rules. Imran Khan's party, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf (PTI), and his lawyers have called the verdict politically motivated and described the trial as unfair. An appeal is likely to be filed in a higher court. However, the sentence will remain in effect for now. The World Bank has approved $700 million in financing for Pakistan. The funds, part of a multi-year initiative to support economic stability and service delivery, come under the Public Resources for Inclusive Development Multi-Phase Programmatic Approach Program, which could total $1.35 billion. Of this, $600 million will go to federal programs and $100 million to Sindh province. The approval follows a $47.9 million grant in August to improve education in Punjab. In November, an IMF World Bank report uploaded by Pakistan's Finance Ministry said Pakistan's fragmented regulation, opaque budgeting and political capture are curbing investment and weakening revenue. Regional tensions may surface over international financing for Pakistan. Shifting focus now, 3 people were killed and 5 injured where a knife-wielding attacker went on a rampage in central Taipei on Friday. A 27-year-old suspect set off smoke bombs in Taipei's main metro station during the Friday evening rush hour before launching into a stabbing rampage. Later, the suspect died in an apparent suicide after the attack. The deceased suspected attacker had a prior criminal record and outstanding warrants, and his house has been searched. Taiwan's President Lai Ching-te demands a full public inquiry into a deadly metro attack. Officials called it a deliberate act but said the motive was not immediately clear. Lai Ching-te also visited the hospital, offering prayers and expressing hopes for the injured to make a swift and full recovery.
For areas in Taipei City where crowds are expected to gather in various commercial districts, we are upgrading security measures citywide. This includes not only increasing police presence, but also ensuring that all officers are fully equipped with the necessary gear. Police vehicle, specialized unit and task forces will also be deployed.
Around 1,000 surf lifesavers held a vigil on Sydney's Bondi Beach 6 days after 2 gunmen killed 15 people and wounded dozens more at a seaside celebration of Hanukkah, the Jewish festival of lights. The Bondi Beach volunteer and professional surf lifesavers in their distinctive red and yellow uniforms lined the sand for 2 minutes of silence to honor the shooting victims. Police reopened parts of the beach since Thursday, sparking a return to one of the country's beloved landmarks after 2 shooters attacked a Hanukkah celebration at a park near the shore, killing 15 people. Thailand has temporarily closed more than 1,000 schools in border areas following a new round of armed clashes between Thai and Cambodian troops along their shared border. The Thai Ministry of Education ordered the suspension of classes on Friday in 7 provinces bordering Cambodia, affecting a total of 1,060 schools to ensure the safety of students and teachers. At local shelters, displaced residents, including children and teenagers, have sought refuge as fighting continues. Border clashes between the 2 sides reignited in December again, less than 2 months after the 2 sides signed a joint peace declaration, with both sides trading the blame for instigating the attacks. And still to come on DD India Newshour. US and Russian officials are set to meet in Florida for more talks on Ukraine. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio gives updates on Venezuela, Ukraine, Gaza at year-end news conference in Washington. And Brazil's court rejects jailed former President Jair Bolsonaro's fresh appeal against his coup conviction.
Can the US launch a bombing campaign against Iran? The Philippines vessel suffered structural damage. The saga of child sexual abuse is the United States China's debt trap strategy. Truth is stranger than fiction. But sometimes hard to uncover. Trust us to tell the truth, unadulterated and pure, of every story that matters to you. You read between the lines, cut the clutter, and connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots at these times with me, only on DD India.
You're watching DD India Newshour. I am Siddharth Bharadwaj. And the US military launched large-scale strikes against dozens of Islamic State targets in Syria on Friday in retaliation for an attack on American personnel. US Central Command said the strikes hit more than 70 targets across central Syria, adding that Jordanian fighter jets supported the operation. One US official said the strikes were carried out by US F-15 and A-10 jets, along with Apache helicopters and HIMARS rocket systems. A US-led coalition has been carrying out airstrikes and ground operations in Syria, targeting Islamic State suspects in recent months, often with the involvement of Syria's security forces. President Donald Trump has vowed to retaliate after a suspected ISIS attack killed U.S. personnel last weekend in Syria. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said the strikes targeted ISIS fighters, infrastructure and weapons sites, and that the operation was Operation Hawkeye strike. 2 U.S. Army soldiers and a civilian interpreter were killed on Saturday in the central Syrian town of Palmyra by an attacker who targeted a convoy of American and Syrian forces before being shot dead, according to the U.S. military. President Trump confirmed at a rally in North Carolina that he had ordered a massive strike on Islamic State targets in Syria. Trump said the Syrian government fully supported the strikes.
We hit the ISIS thugs in Syria who were trying to regroup after their decimation by the Trump administration 5 years ago. We hit them hard. I ordered a massive strike on the terrorists that killed our 3 great patriots last week. 2 soldiers, 1 interpreter, all great people. And it was very successful. It was precision. We hit every site flawlessly, and we are restoring peace through strength. We're all over the world.
Moving on to updates on the much talked about Epstein files. The U.S. Justice Department released a new trove of documents from its investigations into the late financier and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, bowing to pressure from lawmakers who forced their disclosure with a new law. The release follows months of political wrangling amid rebellion by some of President Donald Trump's staunchest supporters over his administration's reluctance to make public all records tied to probes into Epstein. Although the Justice Department added a note to the webpage where it posted links to the documents that said all reasonable efforts have been made to redact victims' personal information, but warned that some could be disclosed inadvertently. A White House spokesperson praised the Trump administration following the latest release by the U.S. Justice Department, said that the release was a testament to transparency of the administration. Meanwhile, Democratic Representative Ro Khanna of California has said that the law requires all unclassified documents related to Epstein to be released.
First of all, the law requires all unclassified documents related to Epstein to be released. It's obvious they have not met that standard. Blanchard himself admitted that they only are releasing a few 100,000 documents, and the rest of the documents they will be releasing in the weeks ahead. It is disappointing that they haven't been able to release these documents on time in compliance with the law. While it's clear they're trying at the very least to meet the deadline, they should have been able to do more. And if they couldn't do it, they should have met with the survivors' lawyers or with the Oversight Committee or with Massey and me to explain why not. But at this point, what we need is a clear timeline of when the rest of the documents will be released and an explanation for why they did not release all of them today.
A spokesman for former U.S. President Bill Clinton, responding to a series of photos released by the Justice Department showing Clinton socializing at one time with the late financier and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, said this isn't about Bill Clinton and suggested the move was about shielding the White House from scrutiny. All right, and DD India's Jessica Taneja joins us live with more on the story. Hi, Jessica. U.S. Justice Department released a new trove of documents from its investigations into Jeffrey Epstein. What more can you tell us on this, and also shed a light on how this case is being taken up by the Trump administration? Jessica.
Well, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche has said that there'll be more documents released over the next weeks, which will be part of the Epstein Transparency Act that the Congress had passed last month. So given that legislation in place, they will have to release more files. Now, from the side of the Justice Department, clarifications have been given as to why limited number of files were released, because the extensive, part of the files which have not been put out and the materials which have been shielded at this point, which also include the grand jury testimonies, the investigative records, and also immunity deals and sealed settlements that had taken place, and also the investigations that the Justice Department had done earlier. So a lot of files still need to be out, but what we've seen from the documents that was released by the Justice Department, former US President Bill Clinton, his pictures with the accused and the accomplice of sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein, his pictures with Ghislaine Maxwell in a swimming pool were released, and also a couple of other pictures in formal setting, which in fact try to put spotlight on former President Bill Clinton. While the Donald Trump administration has been hesitant to release these documents earlier, both the Justice Department and the FBI sought to give clarifications on there was no further need to release those Epstein files because there are hundreds and thousands of documents and more than 200 Justice Department officials are working on it. So it's a huge task. There are a lot of redactments that are taking place to protect the victims' identities and also certain very complicated and if I may say, obscure investigation details that are in those files that are still not put out. But Siddharth, this case dates back to 1996, and
Right.
it was in 2002 when Jeffrey Epstein was first found guilty, and he had pled guilty in 2006, where he got very favorable plea deals, and that perhaps invited scrutiny into this case, which we're seeing till now in 2025.
Indeed. Jessica, but I want to ask you that what opinion are the Democrats of in regard to this entire matter?
Well, it was a Democrat push to bring in the Epstein Transparency Act last month. Remember, the Donald Trump administration had informed the Republicans that he's not happy with the Republicans siding with the Democrats when it comes to releasing all the Epstein files. And the focus of these files has a lot to do with the president himself, who's been bristled at the release of these files and his constant targeting in the media when it comes to his relations with Jeffrey Epstein in the past. Though no convictions or documents reveal a direct connection or convict Donald Trump because of his relation with Jeffrey Epstein, who's the former sex trafficker who then later died in 2019 in the Manhattan Corrections Center. That's again open to scrutiny, but at the same time, it is not looking into specific charges where Donald Trump is related to Jeffrey Epstein, but the focus by the media and by the victims to release all these files because of the injustice the victims say has been served in the case, and how Jeffrey Epstein and even Ghislaine Maxwell, who's right now in a minimum security prison camp. And, this certainly complicated the matter for the president, who even during his presidential campaign had said that he would release all the Epstein files. But this move for the Democrats had served its purpose last month when the Epstein Transparency Act was passed. But at the same time, the Democrats, as you heard from Ro Khanna, he says that these are just few files targeting former Democrats, and the main purpose of this was to release all documents and provide the justice to the victims that they deserve since more than 2 decades.
Definitely. Jessica, you just mentioned Ro Khanna. He's a Democratic representative. He said that the law requires all unclassified documents related to Epstein to be released. Could you tell us more about what this law is and your assessment of this entire case, Jessica?
Well, if you hear from Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, he seems to be of the view that yes, all files related to Jeffrey Epstein must be released, but the delay in releasing all the files is due to the redactions that the due course of law and process that is being followed, given the sensitivity of this issue, given the victims who were sex trafficked or abused by Jeffrey Epstein in the past. So to prevent their identities from going public, and certain testimonies, that also would relate to a lot of sensitivity, and the Justice Department says that it has to work on hundreds and thousands of documents to arrive at that stage. And also, Todd Blanche mentioned that there are certain documents that are protected by law enforcement and legal scrutiny because they enjoy certain privileges. And now we're not aware of what those legal complications are, but there are many layers to this legislation which prevent the House to release all the files But in due course, they will have to, as the Democrats continue to push for this, and they say that they want to see all the files as they have promised the victims and the states they represent, where in fact most of these victims who were underage were abused by Jeffrey Epstein in the past. They await justice, and for them, the Democrats say they'll continue to fight.
Definitely. Jessica, thank you for giving us a deep insight into this entire matter and of course a wonderful analysis. We leave it there. Thank you so much. Moving on to peace talks regarding Russia-Ukraine conflict, Russian officials, including Kremlin negotiator Kirill Dmitriev, will be meeting White House envoy Steve Witkoff and Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner on Saturday. Ukrainian negotiators held a new round of talks on a settlement to the conflict in Miami with US and European teams on Friday. Ukrainian negotiator Rustem Umerov said that agreement to pursue their joint efforts were made during the talks. He also briefed President Volodymyr Zelensky regarding the talks. However, no trilateral meeting will be held during the Miami talks. The talks are part of a flurry of winter diplomacy in sunny Miami. Witkoff and Kushner met Umerov in Miami earlier this month without European involvement and traveled to Moscow to hold talks with Putin. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio promised not to force Ukraine into any agreement to end the conflict. Talking to reporters, the US Secretary of State said that he might join a portion of talks on Ukraine on Saturday.
Be a peace deal unless Ukraine agrees to it. And there can't be a peace deal, of course, unless Russia agrees to it. But remember that. Any peace deal is one that Ukraine has to agree to because they're a combatant. If Ukraine says we don't agree to it, there won't be peace. So our job is not to force anything on anyone. It is to try to figure out if we can nudge both sides to a common place. And guys, you know, in a conflict like this, in a war like this, that's not easy. It takes a lot of time. We're going to have some patience with it, unfortunately.
In the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict, Ukraine announced that its drones struck a Russian oil rig and a military patrol ship operated by Lukoil in the Caspian Sea. The strike is a part of a series of recent assaults on Russian drilling platforms in the Caspian Sea, but it marks the first time Ukraine's military has officially confirmed such an operation. Officials say a drilling platform at the Filanovsky oil rig was damaged in the attack. The same rig was targeted by drones at least twice more in December. Ukraine insists that Russian oil facilities are legitimate military objectives, arguing that energy revenues remain a primary source of funding for Russia's nearly 4-year-long war effort. Amid its tensions with Venezuela, United States is ramping up its military presence in the Caribbean. The U.S. military carried out training exercises at airports in Ponce and Aguadilla, Puerto Rico. President Trump's pressure campaign on Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro continues after it carried out strikes against suspected drug vessels in the region, seized a sanctioned oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela, and declared a blockade of all sanctioned oil tankers entering and leaving Venezuela. Maduro and his government have vehemently denied links to crime and say that the U.S. is seeking to oust him in order to take control of Venezuela's vast oil reserves. After Russia expressed its concerns over U.S. decisions that threatened international shipping, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that the United States is not concerned about an escalation with Russia when it comes to Venezuela.
We're not concerned about an escalation with Russia with regards to Venezuela. We've always expected them to provide rhetorical support for the Maduro regime. I think they have their hands full in Ukraine. And if he's watching, Sergei, Merry Christmas. But at the end of the day, I expected them to say what they were going to say. The rhetorical support, we understand what that's at. It's not a factor in how we consider this whole thing.
Lebanese Prime Minister Nawaf Salam announced on Friday that Lebanon has introduced its first legal drafted framework to recover deposits and tackle the financial gap. The draft law set for cabinet review Monday aims to rebuild confidence with Arab states and the International Monetary Fund. It outlines how losses will be shared between the government, central bank, commercial banks and depositors. This marks Lebanon's first major step since its financial collapse in 2019. Addressing a press conference in Washington, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the United States hoped talks between Lebanese authorities and Israel would lead to a strong Lebanese government and result in the disarmament of the Hezbollah militant group.
So we are hopeful that the talks between Lebanese authorities and the Israelis will create outlines and a way forward that prevents further conflict. I think I don't speak for the Israeli government. I can only tell you and echo what they've said publicly, and that is that if they feel threatened by Hezbollah, they will take actions in their defense against them. So we all would hope that we could avoid that, right? We would all hope that in order to have peace, you have to avoid that, and the best way to avoid it is to have a strong Lebanese government that can actually control the country, and that Hezbollah is no longer an armed threat to Israel or to the Lebanese state. And that's what we're committed to hoping to achieve. And we hope that, I can't speculate on what the talks will lead to, but we'll do everything we can to make them productive.
A Brazilian Supreme Court judge on Friday rejected a fresh appeal by jailed former President Jair Bolsonaro against his coup conviction. The court declared the appeal inadmissible. Judge Alexandre de Moraes, who oversaw the trial against Bolsonaro, said he did not recognize the fresh appeal, which requires 2 judges to have voted against a conviction. Only 1 of 5 judges on the Supreme Court panel voted not to convict Bolsonaro. Bolsonaro began serving a 27-year sentence in November after the country's highest court declared he had exhausted all appeals. Brazil's Congress this week passed a law that could reduce Bolsonaro's sentence to just over 2 years. President Lula has vowed to veto the law. However, Congress has the last word and can override him. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State said that the United States will not allow a dispute with Colombian President Gustavo Petro to undermine its ties with the country.
We're not going to let sort of the pronouncements of an unstable individual over there to impact. We don't want to let it impact our broader relationship with Colombia. It's an important relationship, an important alliance. It extends through commercial, people to people, cultural, obviously security and stability, all of these things. And our job is to try to the extent possible, maintain those strong ties between Colombia and the United States and not allow them to be imperiled by the pronouncements of one person. We would hope to see a day soon in which we have better relations with the leader of that country. But we're not going to let the fact that that doesn't exist now, we're going to do everything possible to not let that impact the relationships we have with the people of Colombia, with the nation, with their economy, with their security forces, which are very important. This is a very important alliance.
And still to come on DD India Newshour. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar attends convocation ceremony in Pune. India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman launches Scient AI Labs Vijay Path, a CSR-led initiative to democratize access to AI. And ISRO to launch LVM-3 with 6.5-ton Bluebird satellite on December 24th.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy, always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
You're watching DD India Newshour. I am Siddharth Bharadwaj. And let's have a look at the headlines once again. U.S. Justice Department begins releasing government Epstein files. Democrats voice frustration over the release of new trove of files. U.S. Operation Hawkeye strikes again ISIS ISIS in Syria. Hits over 70 targets in coordination with Jordanian forces. Monitoring groups say at least 5 IS members killed. And Pakistan's former Prime Minister Imran Khan, wife Bushra Bibi, sentenced to 17-year prison sentence in corruption case. Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed a rally in West Bengal's Nadia virtually. His helicopter had to return to Kolkata airport after failing to land at the Tahirpur helipad due to dense fog. Prime Minister apologized to those who attended the rally in Tahirpur for not being able to address them in person. At the rally, the Prime Minister launched an attack on the ruling Trinamool, accusing the Mamata Banerjee-led party of shielding illegal immigrants. He said that the Trinamool backs the infiltrators and that's why they are opposing the special intensive revision of voter rolls, while appealing to the people to give an opportunity to a double-engine government in the state. Prime Minister inaugurated and laid the foundation stone of two national highway projects worth around Rs 3,200 crores. The projects will serve as a vital connecting link between Kolkata and Siliguri. Prime Minister inaugurated 66.7 kilometer long four-laning of Barajaguli Krishna Nagar section of NH34 in Nadia. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will also undertake a visit to Assam on 20 and 21st of December. On Saturday, Prime Minister Modi will undertake a walkthrough and inaugurate the new terminal and building, in fact, of Lokpriya Gopinath Bardoloi International Airport in Guwahati, marking a transformative milestone in Assam's connectivity, economic expansion and global engagement. PM will also address the gathering on the occasion. The newly completed integrated new terminal building, spread over nearly 1.4 lakh square meters, is designed to handle up to 1.3 crore passengers annually, supported by major upgrades to the runway, airfield systems, aprons and taxiways. The terminal sets new benchmarks in passenger convenience and digital innovation. India's first nature-themed airport terminal, the airport's design draws inspiration from Assam's biodiversity and cultural heritage under the theme Bamboo Orchids. India's Vice President C.P. Radhakrishnan addressed the Apparel Export Promotion Council Awards event as chief guest in New Delhi on Saturday. The event celebrated innovation, resilience and global leadership within India's apparel and textile sector. Addressing the gathering, the Vice President lauded the apparel and textile industry, calling it a vital pillar of India's economic growth for decades. Highlighting India's global standing, Vice President Radhakrishnan said that India is currently the 6th largest exporter of textiles and apparel globally, a position that reflects the immense contribution of the sector to the nation's economic progress and its growing influence in global markets.
The apparel and textile industry has for decades been a vital pillar of India's economical growth. Not only here, you take any developed economy, the first contributor is always textile sector. India is the 6th largest exporter of textiles and apparels globally, which stands as a testament to the immense contribution of the textile industry in our nation's growth story.
India's Minister of External Affairs, Dr. S. Jaishankar, on Saturday attended the 22nd convocation ceremony of Symbiosis College, Pune. Addressing the students, the Foreign Minister spoke about the evolving world order, noting that the global system is transitioning toward multipolarity.
The global order has now reached a point where rebalancing is creating multipolarity. A number of centers of power and influence have emerged. No country, however powerful, can impose its will on all issues. It is also essential to recognize that global powers are no longer capable of being universal. We see that in the selectivity of issues and the prioritization of agenda.
And I beg your pardon, the Foreign Minister attended the convocation ceremony on Saturday. The Foreign Minister also highlighted that India is now regarded globally as a nation with strong work ethics with an aptitude for technology.
We are regarded today by the world as people with a strong work ethic, with an aptitude for technology, who espouse a family-centric culture. In conversations abroad, I largely hear words of praise for our diaspora.
India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman launched Scient AI Labs, Vijay Path, a CSR-led national initiative to democratize access to artificial intelligence, STEM and robotics education in government schools of Hospet Taluka in Karnataka's Hampi. Under the pilot, 5 world-class AI, STEM and robotics labs are being established in government schools, each equipped with high-performance computers, AI-ready software, robotics kits, Internet of Things devices, sensors and secure broadband connectivity. Aligned with New Education Policy 2020, Digital India and Prime Minister Narendra Modi's mission of Viksit Bharat 2047, the program integrates CBSE's AI curriculum and strengthens technology-enabled learning in public education. Focused on rural and semi-urban India, the initiative introduces future technologies at the school level, building early digital fluency, computational thinking and innovation capacity among students. Benefiting over 2,000 students and training 200+ teachers, Vijay Path is a scalable CSR model fostering innovation, career readiness and grassroots digital empowerment. India's heavy lift rocket LVM-3 is set for a launch on December 24, carrying AST Space Mobile's powerful Bluebird 6 satellite to low Earth orbit. The mission from the Satish Dhawan Space Center, Sriharikota, will mark one of ISRO's most significant commercial flights of 2025. The 6.5-ton Bluebird 6 will be the heaviest satellite ever placed in low Earth orbit by LVM-3. The satellite is part of AST Space Mobile's next generation fleet, designed to create what the company describes as the world's first and only space-based cellular broadband network, directly connecting to everyday smartphones. Once operational, it will support commercial and government users, enabling direct-to-device broadband coverage across priority markets. Weather updates from parts of India now. The Indian Met Department has issued a red alert for the North India, warning of dense to very dense fog across several regions in the northern part of country. The weather agency said fog conditions are likely to persist for the next 2 to 3 days, raising concerns over reduced visibility, travel delays and road safety. Cold wave conditions tightened their grip across North India, with plunging temperatures and severe winter weather disrupting daily life in several states. Dense fog blanketed Delhi and the national capital region, reducing visibility across the region. Visuals from the Red Fort showed thick fog as cold conditions continued to prevail. Despite bad weather and delayed trains due to fog, New Delhi railway station remained busy with passengers braving the cold conditions. Punjab and Haryana reeled under intense cold as thick fog covered several areas. Faridkot was the coldest in Punjab at 4.9 degrees Celsius, while other cities recorded minimum temperatures above normal. Severe cold conditions in Kanpur forced authorities to close schools. Residents were seen seeking relief from bone-chilling temperatures. Dense fog enveloped Uttarakhand's capital Dehradun, impacting visibility across the city as cold wave conditions persisted. Ahead of the onset of Chillai Kalan, Srinagar witnessed a sharp dip in temperatures. The mercury dropped to 0.4 degrees Celsius, intensifying the winter chill in the Kashmir Valley. Similarly, Tamil Nadu's Kodaikanal recorded 0 degrees Celsius for the first time this year as heavy snowfall covered the hill station, intensifying cold weather conditions in the region. The world is observing International Human Solidarity Day today, highlighting unity and collective responsibility for a sustainable future. International Human Solidarity Day is observed every year on December 20 and was established by the United Nations General Assembly in 2005. The day underlines solidarity as a key value to address global challenges such as poverty, inequality, climate change and conflict. The theme for 2025 is Solidarity for Sustainable Development, uniting communities for a shared future. It emphasizes collective action, cooperation and shared responsibility to ensure inclusive growth, social justice and long-term global well-being. Still to come on DD India News Hour. Stan Wawrinka, 3-time Grand Slam champion, will retire in 2026 after 24 years.
for sustainability to become more than just a statement. It needs to be practical and seamlessly fit into our lives.
If we are thinking about a net zero economy. And obviously, automobile sector is at the center of this transformation. Instead of buying new vehicle, if I can retrofit and upgrade my existing vehicle, environmentally speaking, it is superior.
Zero waste means repair, reuse, analyze.
We realized that if women became involved in decision making and generated income, the whole family would benefit. Before, we needed a lot of manpower to handle the waste. But now, with the conveyor belt,
It converts the waste into electricity, powering 2 farms.
You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj, and time now for some sports news. We begin with India's squad announcement. The Board of Control for Cricket in India on Saturday named India's squad for T20 World Cup 2026 and New Zealand T20 series. Shubman Gill, who was India's vice captain in the T20 setup, has been dropped from the team. All-rounder Akshar Patel has been named as the new vice captain. Chairman of selectors Ajit Agarkar acknowledged that Gill's omission was due to his lack of runs. Surya Kumar Yadav will continue to lead the side with Rinku Singh and Washington Sundar also finding spots in the squad. In form, Ishan Kishan has earned a recall, edging out Jitesh Sharma as the second wicketkeeper behind Sanju Samson. Ishan, in addition to being the backup wicketkeeper, has been slotted in as the reserve opener. Well, this is a big news that has come in as far as India's T20 squad is concerned. The squad has been announced by the Board of Control for Cricket in India, and Shubman Gill has been omitted from the team, whereas there's also a big announcement that Ishan Kishan has now made his way back to the squad, and this looks promising. In fact, the T20 squad, which has been announced by the Board of Control for Cricket in India. All right, and DD India's Narayan Singh joins us live for more updates. Hi, Narayan. A while back, we were just talking about whether Shubman Gill will be there in the team or not. And you said, no, he will not be there because of lack of runs. And this is exactly what happened. Tell us more about it. Also, one thing I would like to ask you is that Ishan Kishan has made his way back to the squad. It's a very big news. Perhaps when he will come, he will be all guns blazing. He will be firing all guns blazing because, you know, for the longest time he was out of the squad. And when you get a chance, you think that you have to perform to your optimum level. So yeah, Shubman Gill and Ishan Kishan. Back to you.
That's a big, bold, and we can say that a very tough decision by the selectors here, just dropping the vice captain of the team and the person who is the captain in the 2 formats and touted as the captain of the all 3 formats of the Indian cricket team, and dropping him, I think definitely a big, we can say that big move by the selectors here, and as well as bringing in Ishan Kishan because of his domestic performance, the kind of cricket he played in the SMAT, the Syed Mushtaq Ali Trophy, 517 runs, the average of 57.44, and with a strike rate of 197, scoring a century in the final against Haryana, 101 runs of 49 balls, and previously also in the tournament against Tripura, he scored a century, that is 113 runs. So it is a good thing that the selectors are looking at the domestic performance of the players, and on that basis they are bringing the player into the squad. So it's a good signal, and we can say that also, so most important, dropping the Jitesh Sharma too. We are not mentioning that thing. Jitesh Sharma, the wicketkeeper who has been there throughout the South Africa series, he is also not a part of this squad. So a clear message by the selectors, by the BCCI. If we take a look, Ajit Agarkar said about Shubman Gill that he has been dropped not because of he has not runs under his belt, because he is not fitting in the combination. If you take a look, he has been, it's like a parachute landing for him in the team. He was not in the team for 1 year. He directly bought into the Asia Cup. If you take a look, his last 15 innings, 18 innings, he has scored not a single half century. 47 runs is his highest score, that is in Asia Cup against Pakistan, and so he was out of runs too. So definitely giving a player who is already scoring runs in the domestic tournament, who is at the peak of his game, definitely it's a good sign. And also the same team will be there in the T20 series against New Zealand that will start next month, and definitely we can say that a big move, a bold decision, a futuristic decision by the BCCI and the selectors, and Akshar Patel being the vice captain is, I think it's a smart move by the selectors.
Definitely, Narayan. I will talk about Akshar Patel named as the vice captain, but before that I want to ask you one thing. Really, what happens to the players, you know, when they play in the IPL and when they play for Team India? I mean, when you go and play in the IPL, you are firing all cylinders, and you are, hitting sixes, you are hitting 50s, you are in fact hitting hundreds as well. But what happens to these players when they play for the Indian team? Why are they not able to score runs despite the fact that you are playing on the same track?
Siddharth, if you take a look, talking about Shubman Gill's case, he was captain of he's the captain of the ODI format of the game. He's the captain of the test team, and bringing him again in the T20 format, actually I think he is not getting any rest, and I think the BCCI have looked at his workload management, because continuously the cricket is happening, the IPL is there in the middle of the international calendar, and continuously they are playing test matches, then the ODI series, then the T20 series, and after that the New Zealand series will come. 3 ODI matches will be there, after that 5 T20 matches, after that World Cup is there. So I think that is also a case when a player is getting overloaded and his workload management is not properly managed. Definitely these things happen. If you take a Shubman Gill's case, he got his neck spasm in the first test match against the South Africa in the Guwahati, and after that he was not featuring in the next few games. So this happens with the cricketer, and suddenly, if you, as you mentioned, that in the IPL they are playing good, and when it comes about the international cricket, they are not playing well. It is not like that they don't want to score runs, but thing is that when you are just playing continuously international cricket, a lot of pressure is there, a lot of stress is there, and suddenly it reflects in your form, and that exactly happened with Shubman Gill. There is no doubt about his talent, what kind of player he is. We all know that what kind of cricket he played in England in the T20 series previous to that. But suddenly, if you are bringing a player in the format that you are not playing since 1 year, definitely it also not good for the player, for his form. And right now, I think that's the course correction by the BCCI by dropping Shubman Gill and just bringing Ishan Kishan, and also we can say that bringing Rinku Singh too. So definitely a well-balanced team. I think this team has the capability to defend the T20 World Cup. And but one thing is that Suryakumar Yadav's form is a matter of a concern. If you take a look, since last October, he hasn't scored a single half century too. And in the last 23 matches, he has scored around 240 runs, and the average is just around 15. So Suryakumar Yadav will be, I think, he need to perform as a captain.
Narayan, and it's a bold decision by the BCCI. In fact, getting Shubman Gill out of the team and bringing in Ishan Kishan. As you've also mentioned, that this is quite a futuristic decision by the Board of Control for Cricket in India. Thank you so much. We'll leave it there. Anthony Joshua returned to the ring with a 6th round knockout of Jake Paul in their Netflix-backed bout in Miami. The former world champion, fighting for the first time in 15 months, struggled early as Paul used evasive tactics and clinches to slow the contest. Joshua's power eventually flooring Paul twice in the 5th before finishing with a right hand in the 6th. Both fighters acknowledged the uneven spectacle, with Joshua admitting it was not his best display and Paul praising his opponent while claiming a broken jaw. The fight drew attention for its spectacle and massive reported purse of $184 million. Three-time Grand Slam singles champion Stan Wawrinka announced that he would hang up his racket at the end of next year, bringing down the curtain on 24-year professional career. Wawrinka, who turns 41 in March, conquered Rafa Nadal to claim the 2014 Australian Open before he toppled Novak Djokovic twice at the 2015 French Open and 2016 US Open finals. He has 16 career ATP titles, with the last coming in Geneva in 2017. Wawrinka won Olympic gold in doubles alongside Federer at Beijing in 2008 and helped deliver our first Davis Cup triumph for Switzerland in 2014. Wawrinka reached a high of third in the world rankings in 2014, but he has struggled with injuries in past years and is now ranked 157th. He is due to begin his final season in Perth at the United Cup starting on 2nd of January. That's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Prasar Bharati from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.